What happens in the hush behind hangar doors? Who signs the papers that gamble with lives? Which truths were grounded before they even ever had wings? If you've ever buckled a seatbelt at 30,000 feet, if you've ever stared out of that tiny window and wondered who's really in control of the skies, it isn't just flight, it's power, it's politics, it's pressure sealed in steel. We're peeling back the clouds from runway risks to sky-high secrets. We're diving deep where most dare not to look. Aviation Scope, every Sunday at 7 p.m. only on Voice of the People TV. We don't just report, we reveal. We don't just ask, we uncover. Because when it comes to the skies, ignorance is turbulence. Aviation Scope, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning.
We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at VOPTV Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Also watch us live on SLTV channel 264. VOPTV, Voice of the People Television.
Well, thank you very much for joining us again. Now, this is Newspaper Review, and the gentlemen stay back. So it's a full house. We're having Chief Emmanuel Irayanama from the VOP This Morning show, and Mr. Philemon Ejakuko and Mr. Dele Fanimo. All right, joining this conversation. It's Newspaper Review. And Chukwuma Okoro takes on another role. Yeah, he's an analyst on this part of the show. All right, so let's dive into it, gentlemen. Let's look at the headlines. Business Day has these headlines. I'm just going to take them, and you could pick which one you want to react to. Big story here. Land they work but can't own. Story of Nigerian women farmers. Coup. Sit-tight leaders. Insecurity deepen West Africa's democratic crisis. Nigeria's 300 AI startups train models abroad due to infrastructure gap. 100 megawatts AI data center to cost $1.1 billion findings. All right. Lagos seeks private capital to fund ambitious transport policies. Now, these are the headlines on the cover page of Business Day newspaper. But I think the big story here is the coup. Sit-tight leaders, insecurity, deepen West Africa's democratic crisis. I mean, it's another day, and we have to look at issues surrounding us with insecurity around West Africa. Insecurity and then coup plots, attempted coups, and actual coups being executed around Africa. So this story, I mean, jumps out at me, and I'd like for us to share this one, talk about it a little before we delve into other papers here. So I'd like to start off with Chief Dr. Emmanuel Irayanama. Well, Chief Dr. Irenema, if you can hear me, I would like for you to speak now because we can't get your audio feed.
I can hear you, but I didn't hear the last thing you said.
Oh, yes, it's beginning to filter in. Go ahead.
No, I didn't hear your question.
Oh, it's from the headline. So, well, it's not a question per se. It's a headline here from Business Day. So it's your reaction to the headline on Business Day. This is a different show. It's an open conversation. It's not question and answer. But from the Business Day, we're looking at this headline: coups, sit-tight leaders, insecurity deep in West Africa's democratic crisis. That's from page 30 of Business Day newspaper. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the first thing we need to look at is what's our history of democracy? I have argued severally that democracy is alien to us in Africa. We've run monarchical systems all over the time and everywhere. And so when people take democracy and get into power, what really falls into their head is them seeing themselves as monarchies that should be there for life. And of course, with the global knowledge of what democracy is and the feeling that, look, it's actually turn by turn. A funny dimension also of it that you'll find in Africa, where people think that, look, yes, it's a national cake, go there, take your turn and get out for another to come and take. You'll always find agitation for those that are behind, those that think that, look, it's our turn and you will stay there, it's getting longer. When will our turn come? Move to take over power either by force and or through a formal constitutional means. This is what leadership in Africa is. And so you'll find coups when you find sit-tight persons. You'll find bigger struggles that could actually even threaten life when you find sit-tight persons. It's a normal for human beings, this part of the world, because that's not the leadership style we know. Our original styles were monarchical. And then, of course, it is there for life. But this is not what it is with democracy.
All right, then. Well, Mr. Ajakuko, how do you react to that?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, please.
Well, there's a saying in my place that if what is troubling the water is not removed, the canoe on top of it will never have peace. So it goes down to what is the root of this whole trend that we are looking at. The West African Elders Forum had a symposium. I think it was sometime last year. I was there. Former President Jonathan was there. Former President Kuruma of this Sierra Leone or whatever was there. Liberia. Obasanjo joined there, a link. And they were all talking about bad governance being responsible for the trend that we are seeing. And that is correct. But look at the way these guys carry themselves. You have people, there's something I wrote some time ago that when people leave power, suddenly they have so much sense, right? But when you are in power, you behave like there's something not right with you. You begin to think that, for whatever reason, you can change the constitutions, you can change the laws, and perpetrate yourself. And then you have the ECOWAS as organization declaring state of emergency. Where was ECOWAS when these people were busy abusing their constitutions? Where was ECOWAS? Where was ECOWAS? Now, with the state of emergency, what do you want to do? You want to perpetuate bad governance. That is not to say that the military has anything to offer, because just look at the history of Africa. Military has always come. They will do just like Chief Emmanuel said, they will come and do exactly the same thing. It's a turn by turn. So we are trapped in this conundrum. And unfortunately, the only way out is good governance. That's it. And how do we get good governance? That's another big question nobody can answer in this part of the world, because our heart is so poisoned. Sometimes I wonder, did God even create us, or is it Satan that created us? Why do we think so much about self? Why? There are bad people everywhere in the world, whether in America, in Germany, or whatever. There are bad people. So how did they manage to provide certain things that people see as progress, good progress, not just palliative progress like tarring a road or buying a sewing machine for women and all that, but good, measurable progress. And as I said before in the previous session, it all comes to a good heart. When people have the fear of God in their heads, not the fear of God that takes you to church. I'm talking about the fear of God that came pre-installed in every human being. When you allow that to flourish, you would think about community. You would think about people before you think about yourself. Even the God who created us say, if you do not love human beings that you see, you cannot claim to love me. So why do we love ourselves? Why do we have this self-love?
It feels like a case of black man, black heart.
I don't want to go there or make my not talk. Say I commit.
Okay, all right then. But anyway, do we have contributions to this, gentlemen in the studio?
Well, for me, you can't beat a baby and still expect that baby not to cry. As bad as military incursion into politics had been in the past, apart from human rights abuse, let's look at Nigeria as a case study. Apart from the First Republic, most of the monuments you have in this country today were done by the military. As bad as military incursion is, the Third Mainland Bridge, the National Theatre, just name them.
So they brought development.
Relocation to Abuja, and all of that. The political class has not given us the mouth to run down the military as much as we would have wanted. If they had provided leadership and they have been able to do something tangible for us, there won't be any need. In fact, the military rides on the pedestal of bad governance to stage a coup.
But most of those in politics, in practicing democracy in Nigeria now, came from the military era.
Not most.
A lot of them came from the military era.
Some of them. No, what I mean, what you mean.
So what changed?
Maybe what you are trying to say is some of them were in uniform before they dropped their uniforms.
What I said is what I said.
Or that they served in the military era.
Yes.
The military era is different from military era.
So what changed?
Does not accommodate too much of
Is it democracy that is causing?
Military era don't appreciate so much consensus. What they do is top to bottom approach.
Okay.
You understand? And so if the CNC in the military era says this and you say otherwise, you'll be sure that you'll be roped in the phantom coup. So you keep your mouth shut.
So maybe that's what we need.
He has his way.
Maybe that's what we need in our democracy for things to work.
Sorry?
Do you think that's what we need in our democracy for things to work?
You mean militocracy?
Well, no, I won't put it that way, but one stamping his feet on the ground and say, this is what I want to do, and if it's for the development of the country, he goes ahead to do it.
It's not going to work. Under this system, it's not going to work
in a democratic setting.
In a democratic setting, there should be checks and balances.
Yes. There should be checks and balances.
And that slows down process of decision making.
The checks and balances, yeah?
And the moment yes, it does.
Because a lot of things will be ingrained in these checks and balances. It could be for political reasons, it could be for selfish reasons.
Okay. But so, let's let our virtual guests know that they can jump in at any point in time. If you want to add to the conversation, feel free to jump in. Go ahead.
It could be for selfish reasons.
Okay. Jakuka, go ahead.
Let's allow him.
Yes. There's in development, there's what we call benevolent dictator. And that aligns with what our friend in the studio is saying. A benevolent dictator will ram his good projects, his good programs through the throat of the people for the good of the people. Because let's look at it. Democracy as it is, they say it's the governance of the people, by the people, blah, 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 blah. But there are people in democratic regimes, their job is just to cause confusion. Whether your policies are okay or not okay, their business is just to make sure that they disrupt you. Now, under a benevolent dictator theory, that does not, because if you do that, he throws you into jail. And he goes ahead to do what he wants to do because he knows that what he wants to do is in the interest of the people. So the way I look at it sometimes too, democracy is oversold. Especially in Africa, it's just oversold. Except that, going back to what our friend history also said, you know, we shouldn't glorify very little things. So what's the big deal about Third Mainland Bridge? What's the big deal? What's the big deal about National Theatre? For God's sake, people build pyramids somewhere in the world, in Africa, before the advent of modern machines. So we need to look beyond these little things that we do, that we glorify ourselves with. People were constructing roads in ancient Rome before machines came into civilization. So today, somebody with all the machines in the world is constructing a 1 kilometer road, and it calls the whole world to come and commission. What really is that?
I like when you say benevolent dictator. I like that word, but as far as a dictator is a dictator, you know, whether he's benevolent or whether he's benevolent or whether he's someone that the other kind of harsh dictator. A dictator is a dictator. I know that you point to the example of somebody like Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew said, well, I know that I did a few things, you know, that were quite undemocratic because I had to step on toes. I even had to, you know, go against the rules to ensure that we get things done. And that was how he was able to do it. He was a prime minister. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, he was for 31 years. You know, he said, I stepped on toes. There are certain things I had to do to ensure that Singapore moves on. And if you bring it back home here, we had a certain dictator, and a lot of people agree with me, though some will also disagree, that for the 5 years Abacha was head of state, we saw a lot of improvement. At least for one thing, he used PTF to construct roads around the country. For whatever reason, I don't know how he did it, dollar was stable at some point.
At 84 naira
to the dollar. For a very long time, you know. He was a dictator, but and if you go to the Caribbean, you have Rafael Trujillo, the president of the Dominican Republic. He was also a dictator. But in the history of that republic, he's the one that has done the most for his people in terms of infrastructure. And if you go to a place like Indonesia, talk about Suharto and Sukarno, both of them were dictators, but they also moved their countries ahead. Germany, as we speak, is not your, you know, run-of-the-mill democracy. And the average German is interested in his welfare. Between his welfare and his democracy, he will choose his welfare. So there are certain things, they have a mixed bag of democracy. So when Dr. Roy Enema says that, look, what we practice in Africa is not democracy, well, maybe we might have to design our own form of African democracy, because Obasanjo has been saying, look, this Western-style democracy can't work for us.
It's not working for us.
Let us design African democracy. But again, Dr. Emmanuel said something about, you know, this sit-tight syndrome being a product of pre-colonial Africa. But we also discovered that there were a lot of communities in Africa, a lot of societies in Africa ran decentralized government, you know, because they were Republican in nature. Talk about the Igbos here. You have the Gade people here in Nigeria. In Somali was highly decentralized up until this moment. That's why they are finding it difficult to put their acts together as a people. And if you go to Sudan, you saw the Nue and the Dinka. They were also Republican and decentralized. You also had the Maasai people in Kenya and all of that. So we had pockets of republicanism and democracy in Africa. So if we have to build an African-style democracy, maybe we have to go back, you know, where decisions were taken consensually, with consensus, like Dele said. In democracy, it's easy for you to arrive at a decision by making consensus. But it delays, you know, because you have to go through process. I can't remember someone that said, look, if you have to get something done in the ministry, it will take a long process.
Yes.
Because you have to sign this
Files
paper,
will go from one table. In fact, sometimes you have to carry the file yourself. You want to
and when
get
you
it
get
done
to a
quickly.
spot, somebody says, okay, don't worry, I'll work on it.
It will slip there.
2 weeks.
It will slip there.
It will slip there and all of that. So, yes, I agree. Sit-tight syndrome is a product of bad governance. Coups here that we see in Africa is a product of bad governance. So at the moment the earlier we started to hold our leaders to account, the better for us. Otherwise, we'll see more of coups happen in Africa.
All right, then. Well, let's run to another story now from the Guardian newspaper. This is of major concern to a lot of Nigerians, especially at this time of the year, that people will be coming back and people would be traveling. It's about airfares, gentlemen. 54 taxes, charges account for 35% of airfare cost, stifle traffic demand. And I like the way the Guardian has broken it down. It says, the 54 taxes and fees are spread across 4 major government agencies: NCAA, FAN, that's FAAN, NAMA, and FIRS. And flight bookings before flight, 15.7 million passenger movement, and then there's a breakdown. While only 6 of these levies are directly visible to passengers, the remaining 48 are silently embedded into air tickets, air ticket prices paid by airlines to government agencies, and inevitably passed down to the flying public. This is in the wake of airfares, Lagos to Abuja, 400,000 naira. That's what it is.
That's
currently.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Lagos to Imo. I was supposed to travel this week.
Yes.
Lagos to Imo State is about 350,000 naira. At this time, it's Lagos to Calabar is almost 500,000 naira. 1 hour flight, 45 minutes to 1 hour, is giving you between 400 and 500,000 naira. How do you react? You want to go first? Now I'm asking.
It's really curious.
A business editor.
And you see, somebody was talking about ECOWAS trying to moderate airfare across the sub-region, and I asked myself,
I heard that.
who bought the aircraft?
I said, what is
this?
Is it
ECOWAS that bought the aircraft for this private airline?
Where is this coming from?
I don't know. Don't know.
Can they do that?
It's not possible.
What if they reduce their charges and fares and levies and the rest?
Who is going to reduce
No, fact
which
is that
charge?
it's even sometimes it gets cheaper, to fly across West Africa than to fly
even internally. Yes.
Yes.
There was a time one-way travel from Nigeria to Ghana was cheaper than one-way travel to Kaduna.
Of course, yeah.
So what we're saying, basically is we need to moderate those taxes.
And you know what they say?
Apart from moderating those taxes, we also have to domesticate some components of airline operations, like the issue of C-check, D-check. What stops us from domesticating it? We have the resources. And it will bring more money, foreign exchange to Nigeria. It's humongous, the amount you pay for D-check. And it is compulsory. And one basic thing about aircraft operation is, if you fly or fly, that particular expiry date on that particular component of the aircraft, you must change.
You must change it.
And you fly, you don't fly, you must pay your cabin crew and the pilot. You fly, you don't fly. Where you park is not free, like you park in front of your house and forget the car till eternity.
In fact, about that, you park, you pay.
Yes,
you
fly, you pay. You land, you pay.
So it's payment all through.
It's payment all through.
This one is more like devil's alternative. When you turn, heads must roll.
I'm sure that the airlines are not also happy because the rate of turnover is shrinking. You see that they now operate like Molue. Aircraft now operate like Molue in Nigeria. Airlines, sorry. You know what they do? They call for flight for 6 a.m. in the morning. Once half of the aircraft is not filled, they delay the flight for another batch that paid for 11
because they can't go
a.m. And if still the aircraft is not filled, they postpone the flight till around 3 p.m. And you may end up flying 9 p.m. for a flight that's supposed
And
to be.
another thing that they do is, weeks before a particular flight, they ensure that the seats are the website is blocked. The website will be down. You will not be able to book,
Of course.
except you try to log in at particular times of the day. Or they tell you that the seats are filled up. And then when it's closer, when they know that the fares are higher,
They're opening.
and then it opens up.
You know the curious part of that area that you're talking about is, if you're typing, you want to book a flight, and the price is 200,000, you won't be able to log in. It's like somebody is watching the traffic at the other end. So the moment they know that there's so much frenzy to call to log in, they close
The portal.
the portal, and then by the time they are opening it, it's 250.
It just keeps going up.
And so, if you are not lucky to be the first 10 that logged in and book, be sure that it will be logged out.
Okay.
And then, so at the end of the day, you may end up buying it for 350.
Let's talk about the charges and the taxes. Where do they go to? They go to FAN and
NCAA, NAMA, FIRS.
Now, what do they do? What do they do
AIB.
with this money?
It's government. I mean, the airlines pay, the ministries, they pay to the government. So
Exactly my
basically,
question.
the
What do
airlines
they do with
just.
this money? So why the
For the maintenance of their equipment,
of which equipment?
NCAA equipment.
Airports.
No, what I'm saying is that the taxes are excessive.
We all agree.
54
We all agree
taxes.
on that.
So what can government do to cut it down?
They should cut it down, and then, like I said, domesticate some of those operations rather than going offshore to spend dollars.
No, they say taxes account for 35% off.
That is the one that you can capture.
Yeah.
There are some that you may not be able to capture easily, and you still pay.
Well, let's go virtual now. Let's hear from the men on the other side. I don't know. Are you expecting your brothers in the abroad to come back?
No, those ones can come back.
They can come back.
They can come back. Their own is static.
They'll come back and stay in Lagos, or they come back and land in Abuja and
I
stay
know
there.
what you are saying. Let's talk about our domestic problem.
Okay, gentlemen, please
If I may come in,
go ahead. Please.
you know the ease of movement also contributes to the GDP of the country. So when people are not able to, it goes down to what we will get at the end of the year as our gross domestic product. Today, one of the biggest, in those days, I'll say rather, one of the biggest movers of people and goods used to be the railway lines. Remember? Anywhere in the world, including Nigeria. Today, for whatever reason, I am asking myself, we had railways running in Nigeria back in the 60s. Today, railway is a big thing. I traveled from Warri to where now, to Itakpe. The train stopped 4 times on the way due to breakdown. And I'm wondering in my head, this is a technology that has been in existence for over 200-300 years. So there is pressure on the airlines. And again, just as has been said, why on earth we are collecting all these taxes all throughout the years? How come we don't have a functional place to service aircraft in Nigeria? We're even talking about servicing of aircraft. Have you been to the Abuja airport? Have you been to the car park, the public car park? Does it look like, is it befitting of a country in the first place? So where do all these taxes, where are they going? But the bottom line is this: when government wants to stimulate business, when government wants to grow the economy, the first thing they need to look at is how much is government taking as taxes? And how much is government spending from what it collects as taxes? Over the years, we have not been able to balance our books in that regard. And it's something any serious government should look at, so that we can allow roads to be constructed, We can allow the airports to be modernized. We can allow trains. When you have a multimodal system of transportation, people can easily move from one area to the other. If I think flying is too expensive, I go for the trains. If I think the trains are too expensive, I go for road. Today, I am scared to travel on the road, just as I'm scared to travel with the trains. The only thing I can do for myself for ease is fly. And today, you want to spend 300,000? That's the plot. That's the price of a plot of land somewhere in this country. So I believe that people in government, advisors, president, ministers, they know all these things. It's just that they don't have the willpower to do it. And I hope and pray that someday, because in this country now, everything we don't live and for God. It be like say God not give us brain to work.
Mr. Jekuko,
they don't depend on God.
Mr. Philemon, I'm happy that you use this phrase, political will. I've been asking this question, please, where do they sell political will so that we can go and buy it?
Have it at Onitsha market. Go there, you get some to buy.
Because that seems to be the problem.
Also check Osho the market.
That seems to be the problem. Every time the president, if he has a political will, where can we?
Let me make this. When you were speaking a few minutes ago, you were mentioning countries that certain things happened, whereas they were not democratic. Today, one of the countries you can look to and wonder is China. Is China a democratic country?
Certainly not.
Another country you can look to is United Arab Emirates. Is it a democratic country where you have multi-party system? It's not. So in spite of the fact that China is not running a democracy, the leaders there have made up their mind. And that is why I keep talking about the heart of man. That is where everything lies.
Okay.
We have hearts that are so bad, that are so self-centered. That is why you do not have will to do anything. It comes from there. And where are we going to get it from? I don't know. We keep praying to God to give it to us. God has endowed us with what we need. Some people today don't worship God, but they make the best of life, because these things are pre-installed in every human being that is created by God. So while we are sitting on, if I have the means, if I ever get to heaven, the first question I'm going to ask God is, why is Africa the way it is? What went wrong with Africa? Because I did my thesis on development, and the question I posed then was, is colonialism responsible for Africa's development? Because when we were young, we used to carry this book about, what's the name of this guy now, how Europe underdeveloped Africa.
Walter Rodney.
For us. Yeah, Walter Rodney. But when I was about to graduate and I looked at the issue of underdevelopment in Africa, the conclusion I reached was that colonialism could have helped Africa if Africa was in the right frame of mind. Because in economics, we have what we call the big jump. So I looked at development from across different continents. And at some point, life was as brutish as it could be everywhere, whether in Europe, whether in America, whether in Africa, life was brutish. But God programmed us to develop in stages. And everybody was going on that road at its own pace until something happened during the Industrial Revolution, and Britain jumped ahead and then pulled a lot of European countries along. And then they came to colonize Africa. Now, when they came, they truncated our own development. But then they also exposed us to their own development. That was why we had the railways running when we had not gotten to the stage of railway. That was why we had electricity in Lagos. People don't know that some countries in Europe did not have electricity before Lagos had electricity in 1890 something or whatever. So today, you can buy development from the shelf. That is what countries like United Arab Emirates is doing. They don't have the manpower to support the development that they are doing today. but they hop around the world and tell people, come here, we'll pay you right, and we'll buy technology. So we had, colonialism gave us, exposed us to that light. But instead of following the light, we decided to follow darkness. As soon as we got independence, what did we do with independence?
What did we do?
The local champions became the new oppressors. And they were even doing worse than what the white people did to us.
We're doing at the time.
And that is where we are today.
Okay. Oh, well, let's, Chief Dr. Emmanuel Irenema, I do believe that you're still with us. Now, before you respond, before you react, let me just quickly, if I have the time, run through these charges, 54 of them. Now, they are divided. Those that go to NCAA, those that go to FAN, those that go to FIRS, those that go to NAMA. That's the division. I think NCAA has about the most. They are about 24 of the 54 go to NCAA. So we have ticket sales. Ticket sales, 5% goes to NCAA. Cargo sales, 5% go to them. Excess baggage charge, 5%. Security levy per passenger. APIS charge per passenger. Air operator certificate application fee. Air operator certificate renewal fee. Certificate of airworthiness renewal. Is this per passenger or monthly or
passenger?
Goodness gracious. Air type inclusive fee. Aircraft registration reservation fee. Aircraft importation certificate fee. Aircraft export certificate fee. Personnel license issuance fee. Personnel license renewal fee. Cabin crew license issuance. Cabin crew license renewal. Cabin crew instructor authorization. Flight crew medical certification. Air transport pilot license issuance. Commercial pilot license issuance. Instrument rating issue or renewal. Simulator and training facility approval fee. Approved training organization certification fee. Aircraft maintenance engineer's license fee. That's 24. Now, FAN will now jump in and say, okay, give us ours. Now, this is what goes to FAN. Passenger service charge, domestic, PSC, domestic. And then there's passenger service charge, international. Landing charge, day. So it's daily. Landing charge, night. Oh, landing charge day, you pay. Landing charge night, you pay. Parking charge. Boarding bridge usage charge. Check-in counter fee, hourly. Common user terminal equipment. Fuel surcharge per liter or percentage. Fuel throughput charge. Cargo import charge per kg. Cargo export charge per kg. Courier or express cargo charge. Ramp access permit fee. Apron pass for vehicles. Airport staff on duty card fee. Electricity or power usage surcharge at airport facilities. Office space rent within airport terminals. Concession percentage or revenue share on sales. Services recovery or special facility charge. That brings us to 44 of the charges. And then NAMA. NAMA will take terminal navigation charge, en route navigation charge, overflight charge per aircraft, passing through Nigerian airspace, air traffic control clearance fee, extended hour or extension service charge. That's about five charges. Brings us to 49. And then FIRS takes theirs. FIRS and government taxes, value-added tax, 5%. Company income tax obligations, withholding tax obligations on some services, development levy or industry-related statutory fees. And then we now come to other aviation operational charges, which is just one. Ground handling charges, paid to airports approved ground handlers, mandatory for airlines. So that brings it up to 54. There you have it. So if you're asking the question, what are these 54 charges? I just reeled them out for you. So if we still have Chief Dr. Emmanuel Irenema with us, let's have your contribution to this headline.
For me, we are pursuing shadows. 35% of the true cost on this tax is fine and good. If you read taxes, what will become of the real cost? Can we ask ourselves what the real cost of the industry is actually, and why this hike? First, we need to look at the weak exchange rate in the country. I can tell you that the majority of the cost is actually purely dollar dominated. You look at aircraft leasing, what's the cost factor? It's dollar. Spare parts, insurance, pilot training, maintenance services, and the rest of them. When the naira loses value, airlines must pay in naira to settle dollar bills. And of course, the result, it forces them to increase their ticket prices to survive. Today, we have a high and volatile cost of aviation fuel. Your Jet A1 accounts for almost 30% of airline operating costs in the country. It is imported, priced in USD, affected by global volatility. What is happening? We have our colleague in the studio did tell us about scarcity of aircraft maintenance equipment locally. Many Nigerian airlines operate leased aircraft, and the problem they have is high global lease rates, security deposits in dollars, heavy cost of maintenance, your C checks done overseas, supply chain disruptions and that delay parts and inflate prices. Whenever an aircraft goes for maintenance abroad, for instance, you only spend almost about 18 to 24 months. You can imagine what dollar cost is. And of course, this is passed to passengers. Yes, your FAN, NCA, NAMA, custom and other agencies are part of parcels of the cost that we're looking at. But we must also not forget where the major hit is. Can the Nigerian aviation industry, for instance, have a guaranteed Jet A1 supply route at a cheaper rate or a controlled rate to help Nigerians flight, at least for domestic services?
Big question.
I can assure you the impact will be far higher than decreasing any small tax you're seeing there. Can we localize most of this maintenance in country? I can assure you that it will be far better than touching the so-called 35% taxes and revenues we're talking about there. We must sit down as a country, the aviation ministry must sit down and then list out the cost profile for the industry and tackle it holistically. You have high insurance premiums due to country risk ratings. And of course, that affects the final price. You're bringing a flight to a country that is that has declared insecurity and emergency. And the least thing. The insurance, of course, will shoot up immediately.
Of course.
Who bears it? The ordinary consumer.
All right.
The ordinary consumer. So we must begin to think holistically to see where the major problem is so that we don't begin to pursue a simple angle and think that that's where we will keep turning round and round and round.
Oh, well. I dare say, God help us. Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to read out headlines from 2 cover pages, and we could choose which one to react to because we have about 7 minutes left on the show. So, these are from The Guardian. These are the headlines from The Guardian. You can pen down whichever one you want to react to, and when you feel like, you react. So these are the headlines. Tinubu reaffirms police withdrawal from VIPs, mobilizes security livestock reforms. I think we've reacted to that one during VOP this morning. FG sets up panel on 4 trillion naira outstanding owed contractors. Thank God, I say. Optimism as federal government anticipates Nigeria's exit from CPC list. Kanu lawyers petition Tinubu NSA over parallel Sharia body. Nigeria's capital market loses $60 million to crypto, other virtual assets. Acquits spent 49.7 billion naira to build cargo airport, says Oyebanji. I think the first plane has landed in Ekiti State. Human Rights Day 2025. Concerns as Nigeria's worsening rights crisis prompts calls for reforms. FG, federal government arraigns Stella Odua, others on alleged 2.4 billion naira fraud. And I read up this morning, some minutes ago actually, that Treason has been picked up by the EFCC. Well, initially
They said he was abducted.
Initially, they felt he was abducted because they didn't know who picked him up. He was manhandled and taken away. So the rumor was that he was abducted, but it was later that we heard it was the EFCC that actually picked him up. So he was embarrassed. So
maybe it was also out of fear of what happened to him in the past. Maybe he was afraid and he was trying to resist.
Maybe.
We'll get the
Anyway,
story.
Obasanjo tasks leaders on stronger institution for national development. Buhari will account for 2015 Zaria massacre on Judgment Day, says El Zagzaki. Now that's, I think that would do. That would do. I was going to take from the Punch newspaper, but I'll leave that one for later. That would do. So, Mr. Ajakuka, you go first. Which headline would you want to react to? Let's do that in about a minute or two.
Yeah, let me take the contractor thing, the local contractors. My brother, that thing is a tragedy. It's a tragedy, and I'm glad that the government is taking a look at it. And I hope and pray that the government should not just take a look at it, but tackle the issue from the head and settle these people. You cannot, and I'm saying this with a lot of pain. I was once in the same shoes as these people are. I did a job for the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and for whatever reason, they shut down the project. Okay, pay me the balance that you are owing. They said, no, they're not going to pay. I had to go to court for 5 good years. And at the end, the court said they didn't have any jurisdiction. Wow. It was what do we call out of court
settlement.
How do I put it now?
Yeah,
negotiation.
Yeah.
Yes, that eventually I was paid, but during that period I couldn't pay the school fees of my children. I couldn't pay my house rent. I saw if there's a thing, I saw hell. So I understand what these people are doing, and it is not fair. You pay foreigners. Sometimes you even pay foreigners in advance. People use their own money to do projects in Nigeria, and you not pay them. A few years ago, a friend wanted to go to the UK, settle down in the UK, and he called me and said, come help me run my company. After going through his books, I discovered that 95% of what he does is for government. I told him, sir, I'm sorry. I can't handle anything that has to do with government. My wife never forgave me for taking that decision because I was in a financial mess then. But I took that decision because I could not stand government. Just like somebody said, just to sign a letter at the Ministry of Petroleum Resources there could take the minister 8 weeks. Today, she's in Austria. Tomorrow, she's in New York, whatever. At the end, when you are done, just pay. You cannot pay. Let me stop there and allow others to continue.
Well, sorry about what you had to go through, and that's the plight of a lot of people too. In fact, they had to take a coffin. You say, look, our people are dying. Our people are dying. It's unfortunate, really. Chief Dr. Irayanama, which headline would you want to react to?
Let's look. I want to look at the arrest, abduction, arrest, or whatever by EFCC of 2 persons there. I think Ngige and Stella Odua.
Okay.
While it is good to fight corruption and fight corruption fully, it will be dangerous. It will be very dangerous when it becomes a selective one. And I said the seriousness that it should carry, particularly when it begins to get close to electioneering year. Nigerians will be interested in knowing the basis of some of these abductions and arrests and ensure that it has no political motivation. We're aware of people Nigerians have consistently claimed have looted funds in one way or the other, that government have patronized either as ministers and indeed even recently as ambassadors, with no attempt to investigate or tell Nigerians otherwise of their claims. It is a dangerous dimension that may meet a revolution that not even the government can contend with if it does happen. We must fight corruption with sincerity of purpose. We must fight corruption with a direction and not to use these agencies to fight perceived enemies or threats, as it were, political threats, as it were.
All right then. Thank you very much,
It's there
Chief.
for us.
Yes. Thank you very much, Chief Dr. Emmanuel Irayanama. Thank you for your contribution, Mr. Philemon Ajakuka. Mr. Fanimo, which headline would you want to
The only area where I quarrel with this position of selective arrest, selective judgment is Nigerian leaders, they always complain about this slogan, why me?
Why not you?
Why not you? If you have committed an offense, you have to answer charges. Why is it that anytime you are picked up, you say, after all, some people did it, they are still roaming the street. Why did you join them to commit the crime? Why don't you stay clear of the crime? And then let somebody come and pick you, and then Nigerians will react. So this thing about selective arrest or whatever, I don't buy into it.
Okay.
That's my position.
I think I'm happy that Ekiti State Airport is functional. I have family in Ekiti.
Okay, so you can fly there.
I can fly, And because Dele is from Ondo State too, maybe we can.
My mother is also from Ekiti.
We can go from the Ondo Airport
and then fly to Ekiti.
to Ekiti Airport. It makes things easier for us.
Check your wallet.
You fly from Ondo Airport to Ekiti.
To Ekiti
Yes,
Airport,
now.
How many minutes is that one?
By road is just 45 minutes.
You've
Before
landed.
we take off,
We will land.
Very interesting. Oyibanja, thank you for that. I mean, 49.7 billion naira, to upgrade the airport, and it's functional now. First flight landed successfully. Congratulations, Ekiti people.
All right. So would that be it?
That would be it for me.
All right then. Well, that's it on the show. Well, you're coming back here later this
6
evening.
o'clock,
6
and
p.m.
I'll be joined
Political
by
Lens.
Darlington Agomo. I will travel around Nigeria to bring you interesting stories. Join you there, and promises to be quite interesting.
All right then. Well, that's it on the show. Thank you very much, Chukwuma Okoro, Dele Fanimo, Philemon Ajakuka, and Chief Dr. Emmanuel Irayanama. Thank you once again for your contribution. Well, that is it on Newspaper Review. Sports comes up next. I'm Moses Humphrey. Bye for now.
From the views on the streets
We go to bed empty hunger.
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television.